Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. President Trump's meeting at the White House today with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to sign a deal to give the United States access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. But details of the deal remain unclear, including what Ukraine gets in exchange. Today's meeting comes just over a week after Trump accused Zelensky of being a dictator. But on Thursday, Trump appeared to back off the charge when questioned by a reporter.
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
President Trump made the comment while meeting at the White House with the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. On Thursday, Trump also talked about the mineral deal with Ukraine.
We'll be signing a historic agreement that will make the United States a major partner in developing Ukraine's minerals and rare earths and oil and gases, and we have a great understanding. I think it's going to be great for Ukraine. We're going to be at the site, and we'll be digging. We'll be digging. Dig we must. The American taxpayers will now effectively be reimbursed for the money and hundreds of billions of dollars poured into helping Ukraine defend itself, which by and of itself is a very worthy thing to do. Additionally, the minerals agreement will provide the basis for a more sustainable future relationship between the United States and Ukraine, and thus stimulate the long-term prosperity that will help the Ukrainians rebuild their country. It's been demolished.
This all comes as a rift is growing between the United States and Europe as the Trump administration moves closer to Russia. On Thursday, U.S. and Russian diplomats met in Turkey for another round of talks as momentum grows to end the war in Ukraine. But many questions remain about what a peace deal could look like. We're joined in Washington, D.C. by Matt Duss, Executive Vice President at the Center for International Policy, former foreign policy advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders. His recent piece for The Guardian has headlined, "What are we to make of Trump's Ukraine policy?" Matt, welcome back to Democracy Now! Talk about what you understand at this point. At the time of this broadcast, the meeting between Zelensky and Trump has not taken place at the White House yet.
Right. Well, what I understand right now is that a few weeks ago, this deal on rare earth minerals actually originated with the Ukrainians in the hopes that this would be a way to entice Donald Trump into offering U.S. security guarantees. They understand, I think quite rightly, that Donald Trump is always interested in how he can profit, how he can cut deals, and the hope was that in exchange for some claim to Ukraine's rare earth mineral wealth, this would translate into real military security guarantees from the United States to Ukraine's security. Donald Trump responded to that by saying, "I love this idea. I'm not going to give you any real security guarantees." However, he does seem to imply that by giving the United States a stake in the future profits in Ukraine, this in itself could translate into a form of security guarantee. He has talked about U.S. workers being present doing this work in Ukraine as a form of a guarantee, but believing that would also mean that Donald Trump, the United States, would respond militarily to an attack by Russia that endangered those Americans. So this is still unclear, as are the actual details of this minerals deal.
So, I mean, it's very interesting because you'd think the person who's most concerned about this, I mean, Zelensky, for reasons of just how much of the rare earth minerals they would be promising to the U.S., but the person who'd be most concerned about this is the president of Russia, Putin.
I mean, I think that's right. You know, he obviously does not want the United States and Ukraine to be drawing into a closer relationship. So, again, this is why I say we really do need to wait and see the actual details of this deal. As of right now, it has Ukraine promising to invest some portion of their mineral wealth into a shared fund between Ukraine and the United States, and which would also be reinvested in Ukraine, although U.S. companies would be the ones developing this. Donald Trump sees this as a way of getting the United States, quote, paid back for its support for Ukraine's defense. But you're right. Anything that draws the U.S. and Ukraine closer is something that can't make Vladimir Putin very happy.
During his first cabinet meeting this week, President Trump was asked by reporters about tariffs on the European Union. And I'm asking you this as Trump just met, of course, with the British Prime Minister Starmer. They also talked about Ukraine. But this is particularly interesting, what he said, what Trump said about the European Union.
I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
Can you talk about the history and what Trump is talking about?
From his perspective, he clearly sees the EU as a way to just form a larger economic bloc that could compete with and possibly, as he said, it screw the United States. But obviously, it's much more complicated than that. Economic competition is part of it. I mean, coming out of World War II, there was a huge security and political component of this. Europe trying to draw together to coordinate and to talk more effectively to avoid a third round. We went through 2 world wars, driven by European economic and military competition. So it was a real effort to avoid that. But Donald Trump simply sees it as a way, as he said, to screw the United States by, separate European countries drawing together into one large economic formation that could make joint economic decisions.
And so now President Trump is threatening tariffs starting Tuesday on Mexico, on Canada, increased tariffs on China, and threatening to tariff the whole European Union.
Right. I mean, he did this in his first term. He sees tariffs as, yet another way to extract concessions. It's hard to know exactly how far he's going to go, as we saw in his comments just now about Zelensky. Last week, he was calling Zelensky a dictator. This week, he can't believe he said that. Frankly, I can't believe he said that either. So we'll have to wait and see what he actually does. I think what's interesting about all these meetings we've been seeing from European leaders, Macron last week and Starmer just yesterday, and I'm sure we'll see this from Zelensky today, is that they all understand that they do not want to be in public spats with Donald Trump. They're seeking ways to flatter him. They're seeking ways to demonstrate that he can profit from a better relationship with their countries.
In your recent piece for The Guardian, where you talk about what are we to make of Trump's Ukraine policy, you talk about discussions between the U.S. and Moscow and deciding the future of Ukraine. You also compare this to U.S.-Israel relations as both nations plan the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from Gaza. So if you can talk about, in both cases, the first, leaving out Ukraine, though he's meeting with Zelensky today and denying he said, of course, he did say that Zelensky's a dictator, but leaving out Ukraine and leaving out the Palestinians when it comes to their fate.
Right. I mean, I see, a great deal of similarity, a consistency to Trump's approach. He sees, the global order as one in which great powers, powerful countries make the decisions, and less powerful countries, less powerful communities and peoples simply have to live with the consequences. We saw that in his, the negotiation between the United States and Russia, hosted by Saudi Arabia, where, Russia and the United States were essentially determining the future of Ukraine. We saw this in the appearance at the White House with Benjamin Netanyahu a few weeks ago, where he announced his, proposal for the removal, essentially the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, a decision with huge consequences for the Palestinian people and for the region, made without a Palestinian in sight. So again, I think this is how Trump sees the world. The United States, by dint of its enormous economic and military power, sits with other great powers and simply determines the rules of the road, and weaker countries and other peoples who aren't in the room have to deal with it.
Finally, you saw this video, AI-generated video, that President Trump retweeted on his social media, on Truth Social. This horrific video about Gaza, and it has Trump Gaza, a huge hotel. It has a gold statue of President Trump. It has Elon Musk walking down the streets, and it has the Netanyahu and Trump sitting on beach chairs on the ocean with their cocktails. And finally, it has Trump dancing with a almost completely naked, her bottom naked woman. What is this?
I don't have a good answer for you. I don't know who dropped acid and made that video.
The point isn't who
really
made it. The point is he tweeted it.
That's right. No, that's right. It's clearly that appealed to him. But I mean, we saw this from his comments with Netanyahu, is that he sees, the redevelopment, as he would say it, of Gaza as a source of potential profit, just as he sees this deal on rare earth minerals with Ukraine as a source of potential profit. In both of these cases, you always have to follow the money. The thing to ask about every decision Donald Trump makes is, how does this translate into money in Donald Trump's pocket? So he clearly sees some advantage into this, this garish redevelopment of Gaza into, one big Trump casino and golf course, of course, without any consideration for the people who actually live there right now.
Matt Duss, I want to thank you for being with us, Executive Vice President, Center for International Policy, former foreign policy advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders, and we'll link to your piece in The Guardian. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.